Please join me in welcoming Emily Purry from Purry Consulting. Emily is a dynamic and inspiring individual who's closing a chapter with her nonprofit this weekend at a surfing camp, something she's incredibly excited about. On the professional front, Emily is on track to meet her goals for the year with just 7 more trainings to book. Beyond her professional achievements, Emily has a fascinating background. She was a synchronized swimmer and an amateur boxer, winning her one and only amateur match in her mid-20s, all while legally blind. Now she continues to defy expectations as a blind surfer. The contrast between getting all fancied up for synchronized swimming and building muscles for boxing and surfing speaks volumes of character. Let's give her a warm welcome. And Emily, I will give you a 2-minute warning.
Y'all can hear me first of all?
You're good.
Okay, good. Now I just have to find presentation. 1 second. Of course, y'all now disappeared. We practiced. What happened?
I'm telling you, the buttons move when you're like under the gun and trying to find all the buttons.
I got it. I think. Where is it? Oh, geez.
It's slow.
There we go. There we go. All right. Thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to present to you today about workplace inclusion. And this is actually kind of a last minute change after a couple weeks ago, actually last week, in our breakout session, some conversations about language came up. And so my group was like, actually, I don't know what to say. So I said, hey, this might be a great opportunity to once again further my group's knowledge and education around workplace inclusion and language. A little bit about myself, just again, surfer, love surfing, gonna be out there this weekend for in the freezing Oregon coast, which is super fun and exciting. I'm the owner of Purry Consultants. I'm a keynote speaker, a corporate trainer, and a consultant for everything accessibility and disability. I got 3 monsters. Many of you have seen them before. My son Elijah is 20, my oldest daughter is 24, and then my little one is 11. And then on the other side of the screen here is my extended family. And this helps explain why I do the work I do. My family is very diverse. My brother married a Japanese woman, so my nephews are both mixed Japanese and white. My dad is gay and has had a partner for 1,000,000 years, and they have an adopted son who took my youngest child spot, which I'm a little mad about, but whatever. He's half Hispanic. Let's see. My sister recently married an Indian man and lives in India. You all met her a couple weeks ago. There's more. Myself, my brother, and my oldest daughter have disabilities. My oldest daughter's on the autism spectrum, and then my brother has the same vision condition that I do. So there's a lot of reasons I do the work I do. I obviously only experience my lived experience as a person with a disability. So I don't claim to know what it's like to be in any of those other identities. I really stay in my lane and teach from that experience. So today we're going to talk more about language. I did an ed moment a while ago about language, and I think it was pretty well received. And so I wanted to expand on that today. We're going to also, how many of you can start talking in the chat, have been, talking casually about disability. So most of this today is going to be specific to disability, but been talking casually. And there's times when I've talked to a lot of you on one-to-ones where you catch yourself and you're like, I don't even know if that's what I'm supposed to say, and you keep moving on. How many of people have experienced that in their life? It happens a lot. So that's why I do what I do every day. I work with companies and organizations to start talking and having the conversations about disability inside the workplace, number one, but also that expands to everyday life. We should be able to talk about disability, especially in a calm, knowledgeable sense, so that it is normalized among our society, and therefore will break through a lot of the stigma and bias that exists around people with disabilities. So in review of the Ed moment a couple weeks ago, language matters. And it doesn't just matter in the sense of like, yeah, we should be good people, but it matters in business a lot. Even if we're entrepreneurs, and like I said in my purpose and overview, I'm here by myself. Like, I'm not going to offend any of my coworkers because I don't have any. However, in my networking group with all of you guys, with all of you people, how I speak and how I talk can affect the way people feel in this room. Also, with my clients and my customers, we all interact with our clients and customers, and there's times where if we're not paying attention to our language, we can be highly offensive. And so as business owners, as people out in the workforce, we should be wanting to do our best around learning appropriate language and understanding that the things we say can hurt people. Some of the examples I gave during the Ed moment last couple weeks ago is talking about spouses. When we're trying to build that rapport, be mindful of the questions you ask. If you're talking to a female, only talking about their husband. If you're talking to a male, only asking about their wife, etc. So some of those dominant culture traits that we have in the US, let's expand that to your spouse or your partner. Tell me more about your family. Tell me more about, whatever the case may be, but be more generalized in your language. Using pronouns, some people think this is, I've heard a lot of different descriptors for this, but it's really important for people who may not use dominant culture pronouns to have people mention their pronouns so that they're not the only ones in the room who maybe use they, them pronouns. And so when it's something we can all do and it makes people feel included, that's a great thing. So using pronouns is a simple way to start being inclusive to all groups of people. Disability, I'm going to leave those off for now because we're going to talk a lot more about that. But then looking at different ways to talk about people's parents and kids, instead of saying mom and dad, where's your mom and dad? Where are your parents? Because it could be a same-sex couple. It could be a variety of different things in our culture today. So these are just some of the reminders. And then the general statement about language is don't make assumptions around what is dominant culture in our society. If we can get out of those buckets and start bringing awareness to our language, this is a really big step that we can make in changing our language and building our awareness. Awareness is key, everyone. So we're all going to screw it up, no matter who you are, what skin color you have, what disability or able-bodied, doesn't matter what sexual orientation is. We will all mess it up at some time. So just bringing awareness to being like, hey, maybe I shouldn't say that, or maybe I don't know what's appropriate. When those things start clicking in your head, you'll notice that you're making those changes. So disability specifically, there's a lot of folks, just the word disability freaks people out. And so the word disability is not a bad word. We can say disability. We don't have to say differently abled or dis with a lowercase d and then ability with a capital A. We can just say disabled or disability. The word itself is not a bad thing. My vision, my eyes are at a disadvantage from many of yours, if not all of yours. That's not a bad thing. That's a fact. I cannot see as well as some of you. That's a disadvantage, a disability from some of you. Now, where the problem comes in is the connotation around disability. Our society has made disability a very negative thing, a bad thing to have a disability. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a pitiful and a sorrow that we have created around disability. But when
2 minutes.
When it comes down to it, it's not a big deal. So we can use the word disability. The other things we want to change is suffers with, is afflicted with disability. Nobody suffers with, we're living with, we experience, or we have a disability. The other big ones, this is the one we were talking about in the breakout room, is the word handicapped. So handicapped in itself should be eliminated from our vocabulary, especially when talking about humans. We don't have handicapped humans. We have disabled people or people with disabilities. But then accessible. So handicapped restrooms, handicapped parking, handicapped seating. We want to get rid of that. Accessible seating, accessible parking, accessible restrooms. So we're trying to get rid of that word altogether. The other big one on here is wheelchair bound. Nobody should be tied to a wheelchair. Nobody should be bound to a wheelchair. They're a chair user or a wheelchair user. And then one of the other big ones on this is a more recent language change, which is invisible and visible disabilities. That has changed to apparent and non-apparent disabilities, because nobody wants to be called invisible or have to be seen as one of their disabilities being invisible. It should be able to be something we recognize and appreciate in every human. Mental illness or mentally ill, we don't want to call people that. They have mental health conditions or mental health diagnoses. And so those are just some of the big not changes, but awarenesses that some people in my breakout room didn't know, and that's completely okay. A lot of language changes over the years, and so I wanted to give you all just a little language lesson on disability awareness today. I put my information and my Calendly in the chat earlier, as well as my email address. My email is there. If you want to do a one-to-one, I'm here. And if you have any questions or want to get a lunch and learn scheduled, or you have a referral, let me know. Thank you.